The power of one's voice and sharing that. Do you ever wonder? Hmm. The other day, I got on a Zoom call with someone in regards to a program he was offering. This would never have happened if he had not been creating and sharing online about a year ago. I am not much of a social media person and perhaps avoided it, though I'm not really sure if it's called avoiding, if there was no interest to begin with. Um, or there were priorities. But in the new season of my life, I find myself on here, and his content kind of popped up in my feed. And it was about creating meaningful content, or don't have a niche, or something to that effect. All we know of social media is just, well, rather, social media is so generalized to Mr. Beast, who I only recently discovered who he was. And, stuff of that sort. Business and whatever, whatever. More than just money and entertainment. More than just all the same. So, it caught my attention. It was the first and last video. I only saw a handful, frankly, but it stayed with me. The ability to articulate and the ability to convey uh, that which one desires to convey. God knows, I love words, but sometimes it is quite difficult. Ah, yeah. Figuring out what to say, or when you have 10,000 thoughts going out once, which one do you really want to start with? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I shared a bit about my story, and to my complete and utter shock, this person had experienced a 6-month period of something one cannot even begin to express. Perhaps even similar to something I discussed in my book. Or, frankly, even more than that, what we all experience at different moments of our life in varying degrees. You know, when the heart opens to such a point, you're radically changed forever and you can frankly never be the same again. I mean, it's the thing we all wish for and wait for, and then life kind of continues on and you forget about it or you don't. But when the heart opens, it opens. Anyway, it's different for all of us when it comes. And yes, it does come. It can be short, it can be long, but he had a solid block of time as well. In all my life, I never once met someone who experienced something like this, an event like this. It honest to God changes a person's life so radically. You really can't be the same again. And I can't even understate that, overstate that, blah blah. Like it's like seeing your first sunrise and your last sunset and everything in between. The peace, the overwhelming wave of peace, of beauty, of majesty. I don't know. How often are we not met? Then he asked me who I like to follow and if I like non duality. I personally never got into non duality. And yes, I did some exploring, but no formal anyone per se. Non duality sounds like such a cold word, doesn't it? If you have no experience in the subject matter or the field, or it's your first time, or you're just stumbling across it on the internet, kind of like when you hear carburetor, if you're not in the auto body industry, you have no idea what that means. And so, likewise, for someone not into spirituality or that subsect or that form, even a simple word like spirituality sounds kind of like it can sound like anything, honestly. Fluff, nonsense, or oh my God, wow. And so, back to our point, for someone who doesn't know what non-duality is, it sounds like adenocarcinoma. What? Yes, exactly. Just more gibberish. How there are so many paths and modes and expressions of the same core thing. And then, and then, and then there is the way of the heart. Life's greatest teacher. To live. That's it. To live by the heart. And to my shock and surprise, due to his life circumstance, he met a lot of spiritual teachers. How fortunate, and more than that, how delightfully fun. In my life, that was not my experience, even in the slightest, except for going to seminars and lectures of the few big names, until much later in life I met a mentor. Then I thought, this was a thing that got me. How many more people out there have lived this life without being met? Having all these emotions and thoughts and do not have access to the variety of travel, time, or whatever it is. I know we live in the day and age of the internet, but there are some of us who just don't do the internet, or social media, or any of that too much, or briefly, aside from essentials and light entertainment. And then there are some of us that consume it all, day and night and day. And yet, a real teacher who hears you, or rather, a real person who sees you. A person can only see you if they can see themselves. By that degree is the degree and the lens they live and breathe. But back to that. It really got me thinking. How many more people are out there going through something like this, to whatever degree it may be? 6 seconds, 6 weeks, or even 6 months. And 6 months of heart opening. Radical heart opening. Even the words just don't do it justice, frankly. And have just been open to the depth of emotion, the depth of the soul in motion, the depth of heaven's ocean, and have no reflection. I read an article, the famous guy, I don't know his name, the guy who played in Arrow, the one who played in, who was I think the Arrow guy, Hawkeye? Yeah, who was Hawkeye? The guy who played Hawkeye in the Avengers. He wrote a CNN, there was an article on CNN how he got into a terrible accident, and even though he was hospitalized and lost movement and had to go to rehab and regain mobility slowly through struggle, he regained himself after struggle and grief and depression and loss, all of that would naturally come. Future, past, present rolled into one, all tossed out in the window. That does something to a person. And to come back from that, and he said it was the best thing that happened to him, and he is grateful every day. And I thought, yeah, yes, he's found it. There will be people reading this who, one, will want to know and understand that feeling and just feel something for once because their heart has hardened. Or two, will understand it intellectually and think it's a nice, meaningful story. Maybe even a cute story. Or three, will understand the full gravity of this statement and share in joy and reminded and be reminded of the joy of the gift of this life. There is nothing else, and there is nothing more. And through thought, and through that, there is everything that is in store. For the one, the faithful, the few, the simple folk who live true, people like you and me, who just try to live by the heart. Stay in the heart. It doesn't mean things don't get messy. It doesn't mean you don't mess up. It doesn't mean you don't cry. It doesn't mean you don't know devastation and loss. It doesn't mean you have a simple life. It doesn't mean you are deluded. It means you are aware enough that something inside you pulls at you, and it does not sit right until it does sit right. You just can't. And yes, I mean, sure, you can go on and pretend, but just like Princess and the Pea, it'll never leave. Because you are aware. Your heart is aware. And God's will be done. You will have won. For it already is. Truly, it already is. So back to that. If you were like me, I'm sorry, and I understand. But more than that, life has tested you and strengthened you, and it's time, just like this gentleman, to speak your voice if you choose, to speak your heart and let it soothe. Speak to you the words you know to be true, that yes, you are you. You are love true. Jane.